Welcome to Steve 87th, Puget Sound and Pacific Railroad.
Hi everyone, this is Steve 87th PSAP Railroad, or Puget Sound and Pacific. This is my channel, and I just wanted to invite you guys to come along and watch as I build my railroad, build up some kits, do some kit bashing, and running trains like the one behind me. So if this is what you guys like to watch, stick around for a while and see if you like the channel.
It's got to go up there. But the other thing that I wanted to do so that I can figure out how to finish modifying the top house is to go ahead and put together the grain elevator. Now again, this says that it's a grain elevator, but you can use these types of lifts for anything that you want. So we're just going to basically follow the directions, except we're not going to put this distribution node on the bottom of it. It's actually would just be into a slant that goes into either the roof or into the top of the building. I got to figure out which one I want to put that onto yet, because again, remember, inside here is a conveyor belt, so we have to drop the stuff onto a conveyor belt. Now, the thing is that's really funny is it doesn't have to go to the separate tops, because I have seen conveyor belts, which is kind of what this is based off of, only I didn't want to do it, where they have a motor that runs along the conveyor belt, which picks the load up and then distributes it to where it wants to go to. So all we have to do is have an entrance of this onto the conveyor belt, and then the inside machinery would take care of the rest. Okay, and I think I can get a picture of that a little bit later, post it up so that you can see what I'm doing. So we're going to put all this together, figure out how this is going to work. It looks like this 15 and 16 sort of thing down here, down on the bottom corner. I might actually be able to use on the top to use as the conveyance of dropping stuff in. So I'm going to go ahead and put this together. It's just follow the instructions. Again, the good thing is I'm going to have a whole lot of piping left over. There's a ladder that already goes up to the top of it, which will be nice. I can put the head house on one side or whatever, however I need to make it. And it's got the cage already, so it goes right around the cage. And then it's got all of the stuff that goes up on the top. Now the other thing is again, like I said, we'll probably be able to use some of these things for other stuff, like my grain elevators that I'm going to use on the other side. We can probably use some of these grain pipes and all to get to where we need to go to. Okay, so I'm going to put that together and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. The other thing is what's nice is I'm not exactly sure of the exact height that I need of this. So once we build this, we're not going to connect this till we figure out where everything else goes. Then we can cut the bottom of this to whatever length we need to and then fit it into the scene. All right.
This is the top view of one of the local cement factories and the conveyor belt to show you what type of conveyor motor that they're using. Here's a side picture of it. You can see that this actually moves along that conveyor ramp, so the conveyor belt comes up from where that tree is. It goes up into the dumping areas, and it can slide up and down, but it's a full conveyor belt. It's just that the conveyor dumps into the dumping slot, it dumps it into the different piles, and then goes wherever it needs. And here's a little bit closer view. You can see how the conveyor belt goes up, and you can actually see stuff in the white stuff that's coming out of the gray section on the end there off to the left. That's actually the rocks dumping in. So this is kind of what it's modeled after. And this is another local one that I kind of did the top house off of. You can see here, this is actually another cement mixing facility where the entire top is covered. They covered the entire silos. I just went with a hothouse, and you can see where the conveyors comes off of the lift station. So that's what this set of silos is formulated on. Okay?
All right, so this kit's going to take a little bit of cleaning up to do because the spurs are in very key points along the way on a lot of this. So a little bit of sanding, a little bit of filing and all to get some of that flashing off. This isn't so bad on the ladder because it's a round square cage. The problem came in with these because they all have beveled edges on the sides. So the longer pieces were a lot harder to get together. So one of the things that I did notice when I took this apart and put it down is you have to watch out how you line these up. There actually is a right and a wrong way to line it up so that the metal will actually wrap around all the way around. So if you do it on this side, you can see that they actually match. But when you flip it over, I guess it matches there too. So I guess it is symmetrical. At first, when I was laying it down on here, it didn't look that way. So we're going to do the nice, easy thing, put this together. I was hoping I couldn't find my other glue, so I'm stuck using my Faller Super Expert, which I don't mind using. It's a good glue. But on things like this where I have to sort of hold it together, I would much rather use like the 10X or glue that flows right into the spot that I'm gluing. It makes it a lot simpler and a lot less messy when it comes to that. So I was watching a video the other day on Vinny's, and Vinny makes these. It's probably a little bit easier than doing this kit because he just will use a square tube, which is basically what we're building, and then he'll come along and just wrap the areas with thin styrene to make the bands. This has already got the bands on it, so it makes it a little bit more difficult because one, you got to line them up, and then two, the parts are fairly small to begin with on the sides to get the buckets lined up right. And hopefully you put enough glue in the track to where it will actually stay. I don't think I got enough glue in there. Yeah, I can't even see any glue in a lot of the track that I put down. So I'll just go down and put another bead of glue down there. And finish attaching this. Flip it over, make sure that these line up. The nice thing is with the Faller glue, it actually gives me a couple of seconds of working time. So now normally what I would do is I would just come in here and then use the flow-in technique and let the glue just flow in, but I don't have the proper glue, so I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. Now, the reason I'm putting this together first before I cut it, this way when I cut it, I'll cut the whole thing, and so it will all be uniform instead of trying to cut each individual piece to the correct length. I can just cut one big section out at one time. Sometimes that makes it a lot easier. And it's actually something that they do sometimes in construction too, where they've got something where they've got pieces to put together, because then a lot of times it makes it easier just to fit the right one. And the other thing that I have to do is I want to make sure that the top is the area that I cut, because you're going to have the normal size sections down on the bottom. Once all those normal sections are done, a little bit of glue there. Oops, sorry, a little bit of glue there. And that goes together fairly well. Now, the ladder actually is supposed to be attached to one side or the other of this. We're not going to put the ladder on until we go ahead and do the cut. Now, the ladder just simply goes on there. You've got the longer section of the ladder that hangs down here by itself, and then the cage simply just goes over top of it. Oops, sorry. The ladder attaches this way, and then the cage attaches over top of those. And the nice thing about the ladder is it is attached. It will actually attach to each one of the areas. So we can go ahead. Actually, it might be nicer to leave the cage off, because actuality, when you're going up, you want a little bit more of the cage over top. So we'll see how this all works out as to the height. Now, to fix our height, we've got a couple of things that we got to do. I've already put this together, which I can use as the outlet to go into the tank, into the house where the conveyor belt is. Now, there's two things that is not quite known yet. One is exactly where I'm going to place this. And you can see here, this back picture, most of the bricks, you can't really tell where the seams are at. It's not as prevalent. So the way that this works, this sits on this pedestal, and then there's another pedestal up on the top. So hopefully it's nice and square. So it looks like, actually, we're not even going to cut this. It's going to stay completely the height that it's going to be at. I think we're going to put a ladder that will go over to this one down here if we have enough room where the houses are sitting. So let's just take a look at how we're going to do that. This is part of what happens with scratch building, right? You get to do what you want the way that you want to do it, however that may look. Okay. Again, these are based on prototype. I have seen these around. So if we put it where we wanted to, it would be right over there. If we put it right in the center, it can be sitting there. We do have a standoff that we can put in here if we want to. So we know which side the ladder is going to be on. It doesn't really matter which side the ladder's on. It does in this case because I got that glue mistake, so I want to put that back there. Okay, so the ladder, we can see now, is going to go on this side so that it goes up and through. And then we'll come over here and we'll work out how we're going to put this through into the building, because I don't see any reason to cut it down to here since I still have to put an angle on it to go in. So we're going to go ahead and fix those up, glue this all together, glue that up, put the railings on, and see how this all looks together. Okay?
All right, so I was able to finish off the elevator. You can see up here, we put in some details. The black rails were put on. We put on the motor. The only thing that kind of bothered me was the way that the model sets. The motor is right over top of the cage, which seems kind of odd that they wouldn't have put it on the other side. But that's actually the way the model goes together. You can see here we put in the slot that the stuff will flow down once it gets up to the top and in through the roof. Guardrails are put on with a black little thing. Now the one thing is that this guardrail here on this particular side, it didn't exist, so I had to make that. Just a few little pieces of pipe from my other guardrail and all. And you can see the ladder went on, and then the base is attached. Nice little opening down on the bottom. So that's going to be it for this week. We've got our elevator finished, and next week we're going to move on to the rest of the details, which finally came in from the mail, and we're going to finish it off. Okay, so thanks for showing up, and I will finish this series off on building the concrete silos next week. Thanks for stopping by.